All right, we should be live any second. And there we go, right on cue. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, Barnon 11970. As always, I want to take the time to thank you for listening to what I have to say, and hopefully, I can get you to start thinking in alternate ways. So, before I start, I want to tell everybody. First of all, welcome. I always appreciate it, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it days, weeks, months, years later. It is the 24th of April 2017 at 7:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hello, Michelle, and others that are just starting to come in. I always wait a second or two before I really start my speaking, so this way people get a chance, because I always randomly put on something when I'm inspired to talk about something. Now, if you know anything about what's really going on in this world, obviously, if you're on channels like mine and others, you're curious about what's going on. You're starting to think in different ways. You're starting to question things. You're starting to debate whether things you're being programmed are really how they are. And instead of just taking things at face value, people are starting to research. They're looking differently. They're starting to trust their instincts. And they're starting to find out, slowly but surely, that what pretty much we've been told or programmed is not as accurate as we wanted to believe it to be. Now, that could definitely be difficult and challenging for newer people because, we put a lot of trust in our authority, especially as a child. I mean, you trust your adults around you to do the right thing. And for the most part, I would like to hope that most people do. But when it comes to governments and media and your quote unquote education system, we're finding more and more of the information that we've been provided is not accurate. And I want to help you, especially if you're newer to this, to start to think of things in a different way. Because basically, our education system, our television programming, our government, they basically want you to not think, not in the way that you really have your brain, what it was created for. They basically want to give you information, have you not question it, and just memorize it. Religion does the same thing. Religion says this is the way things are. Don't question it. Just believe what we say. Governments do that. Media does that. Your educational system in colleges and in high school and all the way back to kindergarten, they teach you the way of thinking is to just regurgitate whatever they give you. And that is partially what your brain is for, but not in its entirety. Because if they can get you to just follow whatever they instill in you, well, they can program information and belief systems into you without question. And that's worked for a very long time. But now, thanks to the internet and information starting to get out there, and people that are willing to put their lives on the line to get out some information, people are starting to question things. So I want to help you to start thinking in a different way. And I have an example here that I want you to look at. And like Michelle says, the unlearn. And that's why I always say, you listen to the movies and TV shows and things, and you'll always hear something that will make sense. It won't when you hear it, but once you start learning what's going on, it does make sense. And that's one of the reasons why I quote like Yoda from Empire Strikes Back when he's trying to convince Luke about what the Force is all about. Luke couldn't get it at first because he based everything on his programmed belief system. And Yoda says, you must unlearn what you have learned. And he grabs Luke's shoulder and says, luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. In other words, we are deeper than just the surface of what you see of the quote-unquote physical flesh of the body. We're all made of energy. So that's what he means by that. So it's true even in this world that we must unlearn or unprogram what we've been programmed. So if you look on the screen, you're going to see a little image of a glass. And I wrote on this, is the glass half full or half empty? Now, the way the education department, our schools will teach us, they'll want you to think one of two ways. Either you'll think the glass is half full, which they say means you're more optimistic, or you'll say that the glass is half empty. And they'll say, well, that means you're much more pessimistic. In other words, they only want you to see two different perspectives. And you think that's the only thing. Well, let me ask you this. Does the question say, is the glass half empty or half full of water? Does it say anything specifically? The question is the glass half full or half empty? Now, we tend to look at what's there because that's how they train you to think, not thinking of deeper levels or thinking other perspectives. They only want you to focus on what you can visualize. In other words, what is there? Because like they say, seeing is believing. But is it? Because there is a third option that most people don't think about, especially when you're programmed by the educational system. Because you have to look at the question deeper. It doesn't specifically say what they are talking about when it comes to what's in the glass. Because even if the glass is half full of water or half empty with water, that's not the question. The question is the glass half full or half empty? It's completely full. Half of it is filled with water, and half of it is filled with air. In other words, air molecules, maybe dust particles, maybe little bits and pieces of your skin that floated in there, electrons, atoms. There's lots of things in that glass. The problem is you can't see them, so they don't want you to focus on them. And that is the whole truth in a nutshell about their programming system. They don't want you to base things on what is completely all possibilities. They want you to focus on what you can see and how you can see it. So to the typical person, they're automatically going to go either one way or the other, half full or half empty. Instead of saying, wait a minute, they're just asking the question, is the glass half full or half empty? Well, half full or half empty of what? Because there's more than meets the eye in that glass. But we're not programmed to think that there are multiple options or to focus on the part that you cannot see. Because if you get a glass and fill it halfway with water, you won't notice, you can't see, smell, or taste the air molecules, but they're there. So even if that glass had no water in it, the glass is not empty because there's no vacuum in that glass. So the trick is to see questions for more than what you assume them to be. And that could go for anything in life. Because, I mean, if you think about how screwed up they are at trying to program us things, when it comes to religion, no matter what religion it is, and I'm not going to preach to you what you want to believe in, because it's all based on a belief system, which is based on their programming of information to you. Because I highly doubt, no matter what or who you believe in or worship, I can safely say that entity or entities have not recently come down to sit next to you in bed and had a conversation and drank a cup of tea with you. I'm safely assuming that most people got their religious beliefs, or lack thereof, from information that was provided to them since they were a child. That is a form of programming. But here's the logic and the illogical part of this. When it comes to religion, they want you to base the fact that there is some kind of deity that you can't see, that you can't talk to, that they have no proof exists, that you've never seen. They don't even know what they look like other than an assumption. And they want you to believe it wholeheartedly, even though you can't see that individual or individuals. Now think about it when it comes to aliens. Now when it comes to aliens, you will be crazy if you believe in them. And their logic behind that is, well, you've never seen one. So do you see the irony? They want you to believe in a god that you've never seen, or gods or goddesses that you've never seen. But they don't want you to believe in aliens because you haven't seen them. You see how their logic works? And that's the thing when it comes to truth. It's based on people's perception. Because like I said, when I started with this image, if I just have a glass and fill it halfway with water, there are some people going to look at that glass and see it as half full. There are going to be other people that see that same exact glass and see it half empty. Well, what does that mean? Does it mean it's changed at all? No, it all has to do with perspective. So you can have more than one individual see the same thing in multiple different ways. And that's why when I say about that glass, I see another option. that it is neither half full nor half empty because they were not specific enough in the question for me to answer it in the way that they want. They don't want you to think deeper. Now, if the question said, is the glass half full or half empty of water, then they're being specific. Then you can go whatever way you want. And here's the thing. Even if you just saw it from that perspective of half full or half empty, and they say, oh, well, you say half empty, that means you're a pessimist. Well, does that mean you are forever that way? Because if you learn that if you see it as half empty, as being pessimistic, and you don't want to be that way, well, through that information, you now have the ability to know that there are choices, and choices can be made, can they not? Because again, it's all about perspective. Let's say you're a glasses half empty kind of person when it comes to the amount of water in that cup. Now, if you were lost in the desert, and it's 110 degrees in the shade, and you're walking for miles, you're lost somehow, and you don't know where you are, and you have no food, no water. And every day that you're there, you're feeling your body's life force leaving you. And you know you have to find some kind of shelter or somebody to save you, otherwise you're going to die. And you get to the point where you're crawling in the sand because you're so dehydrated, and you've sweat out almost all of the liquid left in your body, that you know you cannot go for another day. And then all of a sudden somebody comes along and hands you a glass that's only half full of water. Now, would you complain that it's only half full? Or see it as, oh, this is half empty. How dare you save my life with that amount of water that could keep me from dehydrating and dying? You'd be very happy that somebody gave you that glasses either half full or half empty worth of water, wouldn't you? Because it would save your life. But if you were some billionaire who didn't care about water because it had no meaning to you, and you saw a glass as half empty in that perspective, well, look at the way they'd see it in a sort of arrogance, like, how dare you not fill up this glass? I'm worthy of a full glass. So it all comes down to perspective and situation. And that's why you'd be amazed at the most minute details of you doing or not doing something, or what you say or how you say it to someone or someone's, how much you can change the course of not only your life, but everybody else's around you, for good or bad. The simplest things that can change a universe. You don't realize, and that's why I say this all the time to the bullies and the trolls and the haters. They don't realize that their comments will not only affect the others that they enjoy so well to try and hurt, but it affects their lives as well. Because if your life is full of negativity, well, is it any wonder why negativity surrounds you and you're not as happy as you'd like to be? It's all about perspective. And I've used this other example before. Like if I said to people, you have 30 days to come up with $1 million. How many of you would legitimately say, okay, I'll get it? And if you say, yeah, I'd get it, no problem, then why don't you have it now? So it isn't that easy. But we're programmed to think, well, we can't, there's no way I can come up with $1 million, so I'm just going to give up. Well, now you've created your own truth because you've already dismissed the possibility of being able to get it before you even made an attempt. So you don't make it an attempt. So you actually make that truth of yours saying, I can't do it, to be true, because you won't. Now, what if and this will never happen, nor do I want anyone ever to do it. This is a hypothetical situation. But what if I was to kidnap your family, your loved ones, your pets, everything that you held dear and precious in your life? And I showed a video with them all tied up. And I said to you, you have 30 days to come up with $1 million. Otherwise, the next video that you see will be a video of me slaughtering everything that you love. Are you just going to dismiss it right there like you did the first time and say, oh, I can't do it? Or are you going to do everything in your power to make sure you make it happen? Now, has the scenario changed? Well, think about it. The goal was to get $1 million within 30 days. The only thing that changed Was your perspective going from I can't do it to now I'm going to do it no matter what? The scenario was still the same. You had 30 days to come up with $1 million. It's the motivation behind it. So when you want to do something in your life and you don't do it because you don't think it's worth getting, or if it's too hard, or you just can't do it, you've automatically made your truth. And that's the thing about the universe and free will. Free will says you can do everything, and they will provide you with whatever it is you want. So if you say you can't, then the universe is going to give you the truth that backs up what you said. So you say you can't do it. Is it any wonder why you're not getting anything done? And the beautiful thing is, once you realize that, and I've said this many times, you need realize to realize, once you realize that mistake, and that's the beautiful thing about learning about negativity, you can change it. And if it doesn't work, you can either give up, because that's your choice, or find a different way, or try until you succeed. The problem is, we're taught to have other people take care of us, that it's not your fault, it's not your responsibility. Here's a couple little trinkets to help you get by. Just keep letting us continue to give you those little trinkets, and you'll be set for life. You'll never succeed. You'll never benefit anything more than what we give you. You'll never really be motivated to reach for the stars, but you'll have just enough to get by. That's why most people, even in this country alone, in the United States of America Corporation, and if you don't know what I mean by the United States as a corporation, check out one of my videos that I have over almost 350,000 views on. It's The Truth About the United States Law and You, the extended version. I recommend watching it if you haven't. It's 90 minutes worth of an eye-opening information. But you will get everything that you give, including giving up. So my thought is, behind this, is if you could start seeing things for more than just the options that they tell you. Left, right, Duracell, Energizer, Democrat, Republican, up and down. And when you see things in a bigger perspective, in an infinite world, that means you can go in infinite directions. That means there's more than left, right, up, down. But they don't want you to see that much. They don't want you to see that deeply, because then you might become independent. Now, how can they control you if you could think for yourself and do for yourself and rely on yourself and correct yourself? You know, there are plenty of people, well, not plenty, but there's a few people out there that make fun of me because I sell Orgone pyramids. And I make organic soap. And I do videos where I try and earn a little bit of an income so I can pay for my food. But here's the thing. I don't work for a corporation. I don't answer to anybody else. I'm my own boss. And yes, it can be a struggle sometimes, and sometimes all of a sudden I get food on my table because I was able to create a living. But I am in control of my own destiny. No one else is. I don't work for a corporation, nor will I ever. I would rather struggle financially and just make enough to get by working hard for myself than to be a slave of some system from somebody that doesn't appreciate me for more than the cattle that they see me. The idea is sometimes you have to have sacrifice. Sometimes you got to take a step back to make 2 steps forward. Sometimes you have to be a little frightened to see that you have the choice to stand tall. How will you ever be brave if you're not willing to face fear? And to see that fear is not bad. You ever been on a roller coaster? Isn't it fun? You ever been scared on one? You still went on. You still had a great time. So fear is not always bad. The purpose of fear is to keep you safe and keep you alive. Because if you were not afraid of a cobra and you went up to pet it and it bit you, you probably wouldn't live very long to tell the tale. So being afraid of that snake is what keeps you most people from doing stupid things, like going up to a cobra and petting it. But most people see fear as a bad thing. Most people see pain as a bad thing. It can be, if that's the way you want to view it, or you could see it as an education system that you will never forget. Because if you as a child put your hand on a hot stove when your parents told you not to, and you burn yourself pretty bad, you learn, boy, stupid, I'll never do that again. And that will be imprinted in your mind. And it didn't matter that your parents said 500 times, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove, you shouldn't touch the stove, it's hot, it's going to burn you. They could say that 6,000 times, but it only takes one time of you burning your hand to make sure that that message is crystal clear, and you'd never be dumb enough to do it again. Just imagine if we did not have the sensory systems in our body that can receive pain. Do you think this species would be alive to this day? Just imagine if there's a burning building and you see a whole bunch of kids in the building and people just walked into the flames, burning themselves alive. Pain? Yes, we really wish we wouldn't have to be filled with pain and suffering. But if you look at it from a different perspective, and that's what the whole purpose of this video is, and why it started out with the glass is half empty or the glass is half full, it's all about seeing things in a different perspective, seeing it as a learning tool, seeing it as, if you did something dumb, well, once you learn about it and pay attention to it and you focus on it and stop trying to hide it or blame somebody else for it and you actually change your direction, well, then it happened for a reason. And if you're not dead yet, then you still have plenty to learn from. But sadly, most people will not listen to this because this is not full of, we're going to die in World War III. Well, there is a possibility, an infinite possibility. There are places and choices that we could make that could lead us down that road. How many of you want that to happen? I sure don't. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. But if you want to watch a bunch of videos that make you relate to those kind of things, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. Fear is a choice. And it's not always negative. Don't sit around waiting for everybody else to take care of you. Because then your whole life will be other people taking care of you. How can you ever become independent if you're always relying on others to pay your bills, to work for you, to hand you a paycheck? Now, of course, there's always exceptions to every rule. But I mean, just think about the learning lessons, like I said in the other video I made the other day. And if you haven't watched it, I really recommend you do. You know, what about a person that grew up with child abuse in their life, where they were abused as a child? Well, if you didn't die, what did it teach you? It taught you how to be a survivor. When we're a child and we're younger, we're very limited in what we can do. And we're very reliant on others. But there comes a time when you have to break free and become your own person. And until you can be independent and stand on your own and think for yourself, you will always be that little child that needed others to take care of you. And our parents have been replaced by the television, by the education system, by the governments. They are all doing the same thing that your parents once did. Said, oh, don't worry, we'll take care of you. Well, if you had physically abusive parents, they supposedly loved you. They were part of you. And if they were that bad, just imagine a bunch of strangers who could give two rats you-know-whats about you. And their only goal is to extract as much of your labor and as much of your currency as they can. These are the people we want to rely on? These are the people we want us to give all this free stuff? No, thank you. If you're not willing to sacrifice and you're not willing to see things in different perspectives and you're not willing to take responsibility for what you do and don't do, and you're not willing to see that what you do affects others, nothing is going to change. And you know what? You cannot change the world, but you can change your world and how you deal with it. Because if there were a lot less angry people a lot less amount of people full of hatred, a lot less people going around trying to hurt others for entertainment or for a fee. Just imagine how wonderful this world could be if a whole bunch of millions of people just worried about themselves. Because I guarantee you, not one of you listening to this wants to bomb another country. Not one of you watching this probably does not want to murder somebody. Who's the one that starts these things? The governments. And they send people from the military, people who join voluntarily. There is no draft. And if you want to use the excuse, well, I'm just doing my job, well, then what you're saying is I'm not taking responsibility of knowing what's right and what's wrong, and I'm just doing what somebody else says, because if it is wrong, I can blame it on somebody else, thinking you'll get away scot-free. Well, life doesn't work that way, my friend. There are always consequences for what you do, even if you don't see it right away. So you could either be a person who cares about those things, or a person that doesn't. That's your choice, but that really defines you as a human being. So think about what you do. See things in a different light, in a different perspective. Pay attention to the questions asked, and even the questions not asked. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Just don't be afraid. And when you are, sit there and think about why you're afraid and what you can learn from it. And if you cannot learn something, then you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're staying stagnant. That is a choice. I seriously doubt anybody listening to this right now is nailed to the wall with their mouths taped shut with somebody with a gun pointing to them saying, you're not allowed to move. I'm pretty sure most of you have the free will to do whatever you want, including shutting this video down, because it's easier to not listen to things that make you have to work. Why do you think more people take diet pills than eat right? Because it's easier. But is it helping people? It's a lot easier to wait around for a government check than to do things to help get yourself to be independent. But look at what they're doing. Look what they're doing to our food. Look what they're doing to our information. Look what they're doing to your freedom. How we justify it all the time and say, well, if you have nothing to hide, well, how far do you want to go? Do you want to leave your house and have them do a body cavity search every day to make sure you don't have a bomb? Because, if you have nothing to hide, then it should be okay for some stranger to put on some plastic gloves and stick their finger up your bum. Gotta make sure. And if you have nothing to hide, where does it stop? It stops when we decide it's time to stop, and we do things the right way. Riots are the thing of the past. Revolutions are a thing of the past, because they are temporary fixes. Because if any of them solved anything, we would have a utopia by now. We're pretty good at war. Look at your history books, whether they are true statements or not. War has been something we've tried again and again. There have been many revolutions. There have been many riots. Show me one country that's a utopia from their benefiting of war and death and control. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the true definition of insanity. So according to that definition, every person that's a leader of any country throughout history has been thoroughly insane, because they keep doing the same thing. Even this wonderful Donald Trump that everybody loves. I tried to warn people about him, and he's already starting to flip-flop because he's in a corrupt system. So even if he was 100% genuine of what he wanted to do, one person cannot fix a corrupt system by himself, because he will be murdered, his family will be murdered. And you don't think somebody like that can be bought? Well, he's only worth about $2 billion. I have already made a video showing that there are 3 people in the world that are worth 10 times that amount. But we keep sitting around hoping that the next person will come along, and that's why when I was trying to warn people about Trump, I lost a lot of subscribers. I don't say what's popular. I say what's the truth. From my perspective. You don't have to believe in it. You don't even have to like it. But if you sit around twiddling your thumbs waiting for somebody else to hand you a paycheck or take control of your life, and you want some other person to regulate what you can and cannot do, as long as you're not infringing on the rights or harming others, well, you already have that, and it's going to get worse. So Yes, as usual, I start out with something about a glass, but the whole thing is to make you think in a different perspective, think in a different way, think of alternatives other than their two choices. In an infinite world, there are always more than one or two choices. Religion tells you either follow this way or this way is going to happen. It doesn't work that way. Sounds good, makes you feel comfortable, but like I said the other day, if God was supposed to answer your prayers and do everything for you, then there would be no need for him to give you free will. What would be the purpose of free will if all you have to do is get down on your knees and pray for your God, your deity, whoever you worship, to fix whatever problem that you put yourself into? And even if you didn't put yourself in that predicament, if you don't figure a way out, why is it someone else's or something else's job to pull you out? And even let's say that God or gods or goddesses or whatever answered your prayer. Does that mean every time you have a problem now, you're going to get down on your knees and have somebody else do it for you? What kind of life is that? Not for nothing, I would like to believe that whoever created me gave me this independence to try and figure things out so I would be strong enough to be able to learn from my own mistakes so I could not repeat them and find a way to get myself out unless there's something that's so out of my control I need a helping hand. I don't want to rely on others to take care of me. I do things myself. It's pride. Something that a lot of people have lost these days. And we could say it's not our fault because we've been lied to. But eventually, we have to start taking responsibility and taking charge and taking over from where they tried to continue. If we continue to allow them to keep doing the same thing over and over again, yeah, you can complain. Yeah, you might not like it. But if you're not doing anything about it, then you should just shut the hell up. I'm not saying that to you guys. I'm talking about the people that just sit there and do nothing but complain and do nothing. I've told people repeatedly. That's why I don't own a credit card. I have a bank card from my from my credit union. I don't have a bank account. I'm not going to put money into a bank and help create that system's ability to keep stealing from us. I don't take out loans. There's ways to get out of the system. It is a sacrifice. It makes things more challenging. But it beats just being a complacent little slave that gets a few handouts and enough to keep you alive, but never keeps you from being able to thrive. It'd be easy just to say, oh, the glass is half full or the glass is half empty, because you only have two choices. It doesn't take much brain capacity to say, well, I'll take either one or the other. Is that the kind of person you want to be? Limit yourself to two choices? In an infinite world, you have been given the power of infinity to do whatever you want, as long as you're not hurting other people. And you can even do that. But just imagine, you've been given the gift of being able to literally do anything you want, and you decide, because somebody else told you, that you only have one option or maybe two options. And you choose to believe them. Isn't that choice? Just because somebody tells you, or 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people over 1,000,000 years tells you that jumping off a bridge is the best experience you'll ever have, well, you're only going to find out once that it was not what they told you. And they could have absolutely believed it to be true. Or they could have been flat out lying to you. But if you're dumb enough to do it based on somebody else's belief system and you give in to the peer pressure because you don't want to be different than the crowd, well, good luck on your way down. I'll be waving at you saying how stupid you are right before you go splat. Whatever you want to do is your choice. And I've said this so many times. You can do the right thing, you can do the wrong thing, or you can do nothing. No thing. But there are consequences and reactions to everything that you do. You're mean to somebody, you now change their course of their day. Who knows how they treat other people down the line? And who knows what those people treat other people down the line? You cause a chain effect. That's not something to be proud of. So even people that I've spoken to that find it humorous to make fun of other people, it's humorous for them. But if it ruins somebody's day and then they take it out on somebody else and it continues to go, you hurt more than one person. It's not an achievement in my life. It's not something to be proud of. But yet people will do it. Some for fun, some for finance. It's a pretty crappy way to go through life either way. But at the same token, if you treat somebody with respect, or if you help somebody, or just simply open a door for somebody, or if somebody drops something, go over and pick it up for them, who knows? You could have all of a sudden made their day better. What if that person wanted to kill themselves and thought, nobody cares? And then they drop their phone and you decide to pick it up and hand it to them. And all of a sudden they say, wait a minute, maybe people do care. You don't realize how powerful your choices are, or lack thereof are. So be careful with them and choose them wisely. Because you never may ever see the damage that you've done to other people, because maybe you don't care enough to see that far. I doubt the ones that are that way are even listening at this point. So if you want to think of the glass as half full or half empty and think those are the only choices, that's your choice. If you want to pick only one of those two, go at it. If you want to believe because you said it's half full, you're an optimist, and you're half empty, that you're pessimist, that's fine. If you want to believe that that's how you are for the rest of your life, that's your choice. You can change anything. The question is, do you want to? And if you do, ask yourself, why haven't you started? And here's the beautiful thing. Even if you haven't started, you can always start. And I hope you do. And I hope you start with hitting the like button in this, because you guys know I appreciate the support. You also know that YouTube and Google are a controlled corporation that want to make sure things like this do not see the light of day. So without you sharing this video and posting it on social networks and passing it along, most people are never going to hear this. So if you think my videos are inspiring or helpful or informative, I need your help to share them. If any of you want to join the Patreon account I have, you are more than welcome to. If you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. I will give this information out freely for anyone. So I want to take this time to thank everybody that comes to make comments. I may not get thousands of views. I may not have a long line of people going up and down commenting. But I'm very glad for the people that come here and want to do something more positive or think in a different way. And if I help change somebody's life for the better, then I've done something to me that is worthwhile for being here. And then it doesn't matter the hatred I get, or the laughter, or the assumptions that some people make, because those people will never matter to me. What matters to me is doing the right thing to the best of my ability. And I hope some of you can see that. So thanks for listening. I always appreciate everything that you do, and for being here and taking the time to listen to me, just a regular human being sharing his thoughts. And I look forward to seeing you for the next video. So thank you for watching. Leave your comments. Please share it. And don't forget to have your trolls spayed or neutered. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thoughts? And I look forward to seeing you for the next video. So thank you for watching. Leave your comments. Please share it. And don't forget to have your trolls spayed or neutered. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thoughts? And I look forward to seeing you for the next video. So thank you for watching. Leave your comments. Please share it. And don't forget to